I caught my wife walk out of a motel, cheating on me with her ex, but then she demanded us to have an open marriage while taking our daughter hostage, and I made her pay for that. I'm Josh, a 35-year-old male electrical engineer working at a factory near the city. My schedule rotates between day and night shifts, which makes life a bit chaotic. My wife, Emily, 33, female, is a lawyer with a standard 9-to-5 office job. We have a precious, adorable daughter named Lily, who just turned 5. She's a lively, chatty little girl, truly the light of my life. Today, I'm going to share with you the hell I've been living in for the past 14 months. This is a story about how my wife tried to destroy my life and our precious daughters with lies, manipulation, and extreme selfishness. Even recounting it, I find it hard to believe what I've been through. I'll be using an alternate account because I don't want to reveal my identity. Part of why I'm telling this is to liberate myself, to let go of this burden. The other part is to warn everyone, don't trust blindly as I once did. Don't let yourselves be led astray. Before everything fell apart, my family life was what you'd call stable and happy, the kind everyone dreams of. I loved Emily and trusted her completely. Emily also had a deeply etched college romance with a guy named Mark or something. They were even engaged. She used to talk about him occasionally, but I never paid it any mind. To me, the past was the past. Everyone has a past, right? But that was my mistake, a fatal mistake. It all started not with a big shock, but with small things gradually gnawing away at me. Emily suddenly changed. She was glued to her phone more often and would immediately turn off the screen if she saw me approach. Then came the excuses for leaving early and coming home late, and sudden work commitments started increasing in frequency. She also began to take more care of herself. Emily was already beautiful, but she transformed with new clothes, more elaborate makeup, and expensive perfume. She had very plausible reasons for these changes, but a nagging feeling that something was wrong just kept growing inside me. And then one perfectly ordinary afternoon, I discovered the real reason for those plausible changes. Emily called me, her voice sounding a little rushed. "Honey, I have an urgent meeting. Can you pick up Lily for me?" For my princess, I could never refuse. I asked my boss if I could leave early and happily headed off to get our daughter. On the way home, my daughter and I spent some time playing at the park. I even bought Lily her favorite vanilla ice cream. She laughed heartily, ice cream smeared all over her mouth. Seeing her joyful laughter, all my tiredness melted away. In that moment, I thought I was living in a perfect picture. Then I saw it. A familiar silver SUV drove past, the same license plate, the same decal on the window, even the small dent on the bumper. There was no mistaking it. It was Emily's car, but she wasn't alone. I saw Emily in the passenger seat, next to a strange man. My whole body froze, my chest tightened. Instinctively, I hit the gas and followed. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, my heart pounding as if it would burst from my chest. I didn't know where I was going, only that I kept silently tailing that car. Lily, in the back seat, was still innocently singing, completely oblivious to the storm raging in her father's head. Then, the car turned onto a small street and pulled into a roadside motel. In that very moment, my world collapsed. I quickly pulled into a small cafe across the street, trying to breathe. I sat Lily down and handed her a juice box. She continued humming some tune, completely unaware that my mind was reeling, shattered. I couldn't just storm in there, not with Lily present, but I also couldn't just sit there and watch and wait. A feeling of helplessness welled up and crushed me. I couldn't just sit there. My hands shaking, I pulled out my phone and called Emily. "Where are you?" My voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. Emily's voice on the other end was still nonchalant, as if nothing was wrong. "Honey, I'm still in a meeting. I'll call you back later." "Stop it, Emily!" I growled each word, wanting to scream but unable to. "Stop lying. Get out now. I'm right across the street with Lily, and tell the bastard in there not to show his face or I don't know what I'll do." I hung up. The next 10 minutes were probably the longest of my life. I watched Emily slowly walk out of that damned motel. Her face was ashen, her eyes red, as if she'd seen a ghost. Perhaps I was the ghost hunting her. I was crying too. And just like that, we stood looking at each other across the road. The entire drive home, neither of us said a word. The silence was heavy, suffocating. Only Lily's innocent babbling about a butterfly and her ice cream broke the quiet. She was the only thing preventing me from going insane. In that moment, I knew my life had taken a different, much darker path. That night, after putting Lily to bed, I laid the divorce papers directly on the kitchen table. Looking at them, I felt empty, but everything needed a final principle. I told you, Emily, I can overlook anything except deceit. Emily was sitting on a chair, and when she heard me speak and saw the papers, her face went ashen. She collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down, begging for my forgiveness. She claimed it was just a moment of weakness with Mark, her ex-lover. Hearing that, I was disgusted. A moment of weakness led to that motel? But things got even crazier. When I remained cold and unyielding, Emily slowly stood up, her eyes bloodshot but no longer crying. She stared straight at me. Then she uttered a proposition I'll never forget. "Honey, I think we should try an open marriage." Had she gone mad? Not only had she betrayed me, but now she wanted to open our marriage to continue seeing her ex-boyfriend. But Emily began to ramble as if it were the greatest idea ever. "I still love you and our family, but I also have feelings for Mark. I believe this is a mature way for both of us to find happiness." Was her happiness turning me into a clown? I firmly refused. My voice was icy. "Insane! Do you think I'm an idiot?" Then, Emily did something I never imagined any mother would do. She walked straight into Lily's room and carried our sleeping daughter out. She clutched Lily tightly, as if our child were her weapon. Emily's voice was filled with tears, but her eyes and her tight embrace of Lily held a terrifying threat. "Do you want this family to fall apart? Do you want Lily to grow up in a broken home without a mother? I don't want that. If you can't accept this open arrangement, I'll leave, and I'll take Lily with me. I can't live without my child. You'll lose us both." My heart felt squeezed. She dared to use our own daughter as a final card to threaten me? In that moment, I realized Emily had not only betrayed me, but she was also willing to do anything to get what she wanted. Extreme selfishness, regardless of the consequences. That night, lying on the sofa, I writhed in agony. Her threat twisted in my mind. I was pushed to the brink, but I knew I couldn't lose my little girl. Never. In despair, I secretly called Laura. Laura was a family lawyer I'd known for a long time, a trustworthy old friend. I recounted everything, my voice choked and trembling. She listened in silence for a moment, then gently reassured me. "Josh," Laura said, her voice very calm, "you absolutely must not refuse Emily outright right now. She's panicking, and if you're too rigid, she could do crazy things you wouldn't expect, especially with Lily. For now, pretend to agree. Let her think she's won." The idea of pretending to agree made me sick to my stomach, but Laura's words made sense. To protect Lily and to buy time to gather evidence, it was the best approach. Laura advised me to hire a private investigator immediately. She recommended David, a seasoned professional known for his discretion and effectiveness. The next morning, I faced Emily, who was in the kitchen cooking as if nothing had happened. "Emily," I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice as calm as possible. "I need time to process this. It's overwhelming for me. But, for Lily, I will try to accept your proposal," I emphasized. Try. Hearing me say that, she visibly relaxed, a sigh of relief escaping her. She thought she had won. "But there are conditions," I continued, trying to maintain a serious demeanor. "You have to be completely transparent, no secrets. I want to know where you go, what you do, and with whom. And we're going to marriage counseling, so I can understand this kind of relationship better." It was all just an excuse, part of my plan to uncover everything. Emily nodded eagerly, overjoyed as if she'd struck gold. She thought she had won, that she had me wrapped around her finger. Her face lit up as if I'd just given her the world. It made me sick, but I had to play the part. She had no idea she had just walked into a trap. However, the real hell began then. She started being more openly ostentatious about Mark. "Mark likes this dish too. Mark and I are going to try that restaurant. What do you think Mark and I should do this Friday?" Just like that, his name appeared in almost every one of her sentences. It was as if he was a new member of our family. Every single word made me want to punch a hole in the wall. Every night, after Emily was sound asleep or out, I'd get up to meticulously document everything and back up all the conversations I had secretly recorded, missing no detail. I wanted evidence. I wanted a thick black file on her sordid actions. Those months, I lived like a madman. This was mental torture beyond words. I had to pretend to be calm, pretend that nothing was wrong, even supporting my wife openly cheating on me. I suffered from constant insomnia. I was losing weight rapidly. I was always on edge, like a cornered animal, constantly vigilant. But I had to keep up the act, for the sole purpose of protecting Lily. At the same time, David, the private investigator, had begun his search for evidence about Emily and Mark. In the first few days, David's reports were exactly what I expected. Piles of photos and videos of Emily out with Mark like a newly smitten couple. Each photo, each video was a stab to my heart. But I had to be strong. I had chosen this path. But then one day, David called me. His voice was more serious than usual. "Josh?" he said. "There's something I think you need to know. Emily, it seems, she's not just with Mark." I froze. What? Not just Mark? David sent me a new batch of documents, again filled with photos and videos, but the content was very different. Emily was dressed in beautiful, elegant outfits with an older, distinguished man at several high-end restaurants. The man's face looked familiar. "This is Mr. Harrison," David said. His voice was cold. "He's Emily's boss at the law firm." I was stunned to learn about the disgusting things Emily had been doing. She hadn't just betrayed me once, but twice. It was a heavy insult. I realized how little she thought of me. She believed I was in the palm of her hand, so she could do whatever she wanted. The play I agreed to act in had now turned into a multi-level game, a smokescreen for her to freely pursue her selfish desires. Angry isn't strong enough to describe the turmoil within me. But no matter how disgusting that was, what happened next was what truly made me want to explode. Now Emily had two men to manage, an ex-lover and an old boss. Of course, time is limited, yet she dared to do something unforgivable. Late one evening, I received a text from Emily. She was asking me to pick up our daughter for her again. I immediately looked at the clock, and to my horror, Lily had been out of school for 2 hours already. How could she do such a thing? I dropped everything and rushed to the school. Seeing Lily quietly sitting alone on the swing, head bowed, waiting for her mother, my heart ached. I called out to her, ran to hug her, joking and repeatedly apologizing to cheer her up. But inside me, a sharp cut had opened up in uncontrollable rage. Lily also began to change. She was no longer as chatty as before. She became more reserved, often silent. Once I saw her sitting alone in her room, diligently drawing. The picture was filled with dark colors, and a small figure stood alone. I knew my innocent daughter was heavily affected, suffering because of her mother's selfishness. But that wasn't all. It seemed that my pretended agreement to an open marriage had unleashed all of Emily's most despicable talents. She kept on bombarding me with endless surprises. One day, David sent me another report. This time, it was about damning numbers. She had secretly transferred a large sum of money from our joint account to a personal account I knew nothing about. What was she planning? Perhaps to prepare for a new life with Mark, or even with Mr. Harrison? I didn't know anymore, and I didn't want to know. At that point, I truly felt like I was going insane. I immediately called Laura. Listening to my trembling and angry words, Laura remained calm. She told me to act quickly, not to hesitate for a single minute. Immediately following Laura's guidance, I contacted the bank and froze all joint accounts. Then I transferred all my salary to a separate account solely in my name. I also began to scour and collect all our family's financial records, leaving nothing out. I wanted to make it impossible for her to hide anything else. Laura, David, and I sat down together, the three of us, in a small room, outlined the final plan. The plan for Emily to pay for everything she had caused. She wanted to play dirty? Fine. I would play along, and I would play to the very end. Days turned into weeks, and I lived like a ghost in my own home. By day, I played the understanding husband in that damned open marriage. By night, I was glued to my screen, checking evidence, planning with Laura and David. I was exhausted, but every time I saw Lily's sad face, I found renewed motivation. I had to win this dangerous game for her sake. I began quietly searching for a new home, a safe and stable place for Lily, within the same school district so she wouldn't have to change environments. And then everything was ready. All the evidence was in my hands. David's treasure trove of videos and photos, the secret recordings I had set up, plus Emily's financial records and all her shady transactions. I had everything. The files were stacked high, heavy with truth. All the cards were in my hand. Emily had no idea she was about to step into her fateful day, the day I would expose everything and make her pay for it all. Finally, that day arrived. I chose a day when Emily was sure to have a date with her miserable boss, Mr. Harrison. Despite her deceitful nature, she seemed to balance her romantic escapades between the two men with incredible precision. My wife was truly admirable. But the truth she was about to face, I guarantee, wouldn't be pleasant. That morning, I sent Lily to my mother's house, asking her to watch her. Lily innocently waved goodbye to me. Looking at her, I told myself that everything I was doing was for her. Exactly at 9 a.m., Laura, David, and a few of my closest friends arrived. They came to support me with a crucial task, helping me move out. We worked swiftly. We only took the essentials and left everything else behind. The house I once considered my home now felt nothing more than a prison. Once everything was done, I drove Lily to our new house. It was smaller but cozy. Lily ran around happily exploring. Seeing her smile, I felt a glimmer of light in my soul. Late in the afternoon, I received a text from David. "She's home, Josh." Emily walked into the house. The house that had been fully furnished just that morning was now empty. Not a soul in the endless void. Her initial shock would turn to panic, then extreme anger. I knew she'd immediately realize something terrible had happened. Just as Emily stood in the empty house, the doorbell rang. Laura and David appeared. According to the plan, Laura, with a stone-cold expression, personally served Emily a thick envelope containing two things: divorce papers and, more importantly, my formal request for full custody of Lily. The game Emily had created for herself had officially begun, and I would make sure she would never forget this day. On the day of the court hearing, Emily looked at me with eyes full of hatred. Her lawyer, a verbose woman, began by trying to discredit me. She claimed I was controlling, pathologically jealous, and had illegally spied on Emily. I sat there, calm, knowing exactly what I held in my hand. Then it was Laura's turn. She began presenting the evidence. She started with videos of Emily and Mark, showing her laughing, talking, and intimately embracing him. The judge and the entire courtroom fell silent. Emily's face was ashen, and she repeatedly shook her head, trying to whisper to her lawyer. Then Laura played the decisive card. She projected videos of Emily and Mr. Harrison. Whispers began to erupt. Emily's expression of astonishment, then extreme fear as she saw herself and her old boss on the big screen. At the same time the video was playing, Laura also played the audio recordings I had. Every word Emily said about her brazen, open marriage, and especially the part where she threatened to use Lily as a hostage. The courtroom held its breath. All eyes of judgment fell upon Emily. At first, she still shrieked and denied, but those images and sounds didn't lie. She completely collapsed, slumping into her seat, her hands covering her face. Mark, the ex-lover, was also present in court. He stood there, watching the intimate moments between Emily and Harrison, his face pale, his eyes filled with contempt and anger towards Emily. He felt betrayed and used, no differently than I had. Then came the final blow, causing the courtroom to erupt in whispers. A woman entered, elegantly dressed but with eyes full of fury. It was Mrs. Harrison, followed discreetly by Mr. Harrison himself. Through David's investigation, she was known to be no simple woman. Laura had sent her all the necessary information. The couple sat in the spectators' seats, staring intensely at Emily. Their appearance was a crushing blow to Emily. This scandal was now public before the entire legal community and everyone present. Mr. Harrison would also face an extremely messy divorce. That public display of karma was the most brutal thing I had ever witnessed, but I believed it was well-deserved for what Emily had done. Amidst the commotion, the judge delivered the verdict. Her voice resonated through the courtroom, each word like a hammer striking my reeling mind. But these were not painful blows. They were the hammers striking for justice. Based on the evidence presented, the court finds the defendants Emily M.'s behavior unacceptable, especially the severe neglect of her child and the threat to use the child as a hostage to coerce the plaintiff, Josh M. And then she ruled, I, Josh, would be granted sole custody of Lily. I had full decision-making power over everything concerning her. I was the only father Lily needed. At that moment, I felt an enormous weight lifted. Finally, my little girl was safe. As for Emily, she lost everything. The judge declared Emily lost primary custody. She was only permitted very, very limited visitation with Lily, just 2 hours a week, and under professional supervision for the first 6 months. She couldn't even take Lily anywhere without supervision. A fitting punishment for someone who used her own daughter as a pawn. Next came the financial blow. Emily would not receive any spousal support, not a single cent. She had forfeited that right through her betrayal. In fact, she even had to return a portion of the assets she had secretly embezzled. My lawyer, Laura, had done an outstanding job. Looking at Emily slumped in her seat, her face pale, stripped of all pride, I felt no joy, no schadenfreude, only emptiness. But I knew this was the karma she had to bear, and it was justice for Lily and for myself. And finally, the consequences for the career Emily was so proud of. Immediately after the trial, news of her scandal spread like wildfire. Before long, I heard that Emily had been fired from the law firm. The reputation, the career she had built for so long, all of it crumbled to dust. The trial ended, and Emily, she lost everything. Not only did my daughter and I move on, but the 2 men she'd been secretly involved with were nowhere to be found. Mark had abandoned her right after her public humiliation in court, and Mr. Harrison was busy dealing with his own divorce. Emily was left with nothing, just as I had planned. I've heard whispers that after her legal career evaporated, she's struggling to find work, likely taking odd jobs and living in a small, shabby apartment. She chose this path herself. Now she has to bear the burden of loneliness and belated regret. A few times she tried to contact me to see Lily, but the law was clear. Her visitation rights were severely restricted. And gradually, Lily, my little girl, also began to distance herself from Emily. Children are sensitive. They know who truly loves them. As for Lily and me, we're rebuilding our lives. The new house, though small, is cozy, and now our true home. I adjusted my work schedule, trying to spend more time with my daughter. We go to the park together, cook meals, and read stories before bed. Lily, my adorable little girl, is slowly finding her footing emotionally. The reserved, sad demeanor she once had hasn't completely vanished, but she's chatty again, and her laughter rings out joyfully. The scar of betrayal is still there, deep, and something that will never completely disappear. But I'm no longer the weak, easily manipulated man I once was. I found peace in fatherhood, and in knowing I did everything to protect my daughter. So what lessons do I want to share with you all? First, betrayal can destroy everything, from trust to possessions and even your soul, but don't let it crush you. Second, trust your gut. When there are warning signs, don't ignore them. And most importantly, when pushed against a wall, act strategically. Protect yourself and your children at all costs. Don't let emotions cloud your judgment. Seek help from professionals, lawyers, private investigators. They are key players. And finally, I want to say this. Your life might fall apart, but you can absolutely rebuild it from the ruins, stronger than ever before. I am living proof of that. Thank you for listening to today's story from the Guilty Notes channel. If this story resonated with you, please like, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional real-life stories and valuable lessons. See you in the next video.